It's all right. Give that a minute to catch up. Hello. This is video 810, and excuse me, that was some coffee. Sitting here in the living room, so I don't know how long I can make the video here, but want to talk a little bit about maybe some things I've noticed past couple videos, uh, some of the comments that I've seen, um, but also just kind of some commentary on the week events, if I could. And this may apply to more than just being transgender because it's a fact of life, I think. But, anytime a new idea, something different comes along, you're going to have resistance to it. Um, human beings and maybe non human beings, we just don't know any other. Um, you know, we tend to hate what's new. Give me the old stuff. Give me what I'm familiar with, okay? Um, here it is 2022 and you know, in our automobiles we still have glove boxes from back in the day when uh, automobiles didn't have roofs or windshields sometimes, and you know, you'd see the driver and they'd have little goggles on and they'd put the gloves on as they drove the car because bugs and other stuff would come flying at them, you know. And so you had your glove box. When you got to your destination, you take off your gloves and you put it in the glove box. Okay. And we still make cars today with a glove box. We don't, I don't have gloves in my glove box. I don't know what you have in yours. But, you know, things from the past have a way of carrying on into the future. And in the same way that you have innovation and things that we we feel uncomfortable with at first. And you definitely are going to have people who they don't want it, they don't like it. And I think about my family, my parents. Okay, both of them are retired, live in retirement communities. And so, not only are they disconnected from everybody else in the world because you have to have a card or an ID or a badge or a security code to get into the complex, the community, the gated community. But you are surrounded by people um, kind of in the same age and stage as you are. And so it perpetuates the world as you knew it. Okay. And again, I'll speak of my family. I don't know about your family, but um, one set of parents, they watch Fox News all day long. They just leave it on for, for noise. And, they start with one and go to the other. And by the end of the day, they watch Tucker Carlson. They watch Janine, I don't know, Judge Janine Pirro, I think is her name, The Five, and all. I mean, just anyway. Um, so their reality, because they're not interacting with other people, they're not, they're, um, I'm going to say not necessarily scope. They're very focused and myopic on what they see in the world, and that's their reality, you know. So it's very hard for any sort of change to come along, and they don't want to upset the apple cart, as the saying goes. They want stability and status quo. They're in the last 20 years of their life. They don't want a huge upset. you know. And so, I think when we're dealing with other people, not everyone obviously is in a retirement community, but you have people that, for whatever reason, very resistant to change. And in the context of this channel, and being transgender, okay, um, you know, rewind rewind the clock back to, and I'm going to make a guess here. What do we think the pilgrims? The story goes, the myth goes that, um, you know, mentally somewhere after Columbus discovered America, and the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth Rock, right? Two myths from the past that we kind of celebrated when we were younger. I don't know about you, but I had Columbus Day when I was in elementary school. We had Columbus Day off. It was a bank holiday. Um, but if we rewind the clock back to before settlers and colonists came to the United States, let's say, and I can't necessarily give you a date. I'm going to guess 1450. Okay, but probably even then you had, um, sailors and people trying to find resources. You had explorers and whatnot. But anyway, rewind back to when the first European, you know, landed in the United States. You know, the United States already had a very thriving, populated place with what we used to call Native Americans. Okay, indigenous people, I think, is the common term in this day and age where I live right now. It's 2022. You can say Native Americans, you can say Indians, but probably the right term is to call them what they were. They were the Cherokee, they were the Navajo, and I apologize for not knowing any local, because it was more than that. You know, uh, settlers came and found people, and they named them after a river or something. That was not their real names. You know, so, and I apologize for, it's not necessarily my ignorance, just that's maybe a sign of how little I know about the past. But anyway, you had um, peoples, different nations and groups of people who lived in communities, okay, before white people, for lack of a better word, got here. And much like today, when you look at those peoples and they're, sharing what they believe in, they believed in two-spirited people. They believed in gender fluidity. They believed in um, gender equality. Not all of them, okay. Um, they may or may not, they didn't have this patriarchal, misogynistic, pro-white racism in their societies and how they lived. And so, you know, I think if you want to talk about nature, what's natural with people, you know, remove your own prejudices and what you have been taught. I mean, there has been, uh, like I said, non binary, gender fluid people naturally. Naturally. Um, probably since the dawn of people in general, at least, Homo sapiens or whatnot. Yeah. So here come the white people, Here comes the Europeans with their own set of beliefs and religion and what's normal and natural to them, and kind of destroys the natural order of things and subjugates what I'm going to say is human nature, okay, for lack of a better word. And so, take the Wayback Machine to our current day where we're at now, and as we're unraveling this fucked up society, okay, as we're pulling apart this knot of, you know, gender and fluidity and spectrums and, you know, getting back to what I would consider to be more of a normal situation, natural, um, you're going to have people that are just opposed to change, people that are opposed to gender fluidity. They're going to be opposed to uh, fluidity. I may have already said that. Fluidity, non-binary. Um, the opposed to the idea of the two-spirited. Okay, opposed to men and women living together, competing together, doing different things. It's a human being, and I'm going to use the word natural again, but we don't like change, you know, on some things. You know, a new flavor of Coca-Cola comes out. Yeah, we'll try it. Have you had what is it? Coca-Cola Starlight, I think is what it's called. It's supposed to be the flavor of the stars. Okay, tastes like Fruit Loop milk to me, but um, we might be quick to try a new recipe or something, but there are some things we're very resistant to. And so, some of the concepts that we have had, and let me get back more to my point in this channel is that, last week, or maybe the week before, there was a representative, I'm going to say Representative Hawthorne, I don't think that was her name though, but um, who was a Republican. So I've immediately probably put a mental image or a bad taste in your mouth or a good taste in your mouth with just by saying Republican. Okay. Um, but she's a representative from some place, I don't know where. And she asked the Supreme Court candidate, nominee, you know, what is a woman? Define a woman. Do you know what a woman is? Da da da, something to that effect. And the candidate said, "No, no, senator or no representative, I cannot. I'm not a biologist." And the congressperson, went ape shit because they had an agenda. They wanted to make a stir about our society right now and what I believe probably is fairness in women's sports, quotation marks, fairness in women's sports, keeping trans women out of women's sports. But it's also indicative of a much bigger thing, is that there are people who don't like what's going on with gender fluidity, with sexual whatever. I realize there's sex, there's gender, there's spectrum. But in Florida, there was a thing about someone was upset. It might have been Texas. I apologize. I get my fascist legislators mixed up. Um, Florida, Texas, about the genderbread man. And they're like, see, this is indoctrinating our children to become gay. You know, well, is it? Um, again, you have people who just they don't want change, they don't like change, and that they're gonna fight it tooth and nail for whatever reason. But if you, like I said, if we go way, way, get in the Wayback Machine and go back to pre-colonization here in the States, um, you know, you have a natural fluidity, you have a natural spectrum, you have a natural da 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 da. And it probably varied from tribe to tribe and place to place, people to people, um, because human beings were very varied, but today, some you can find those traditions, and I know in Hawaii there is a name for it in Hawaiian that's two spirited. In India, I mean, different places around the world, you still have that, um, again, gender fluidity, you know. Um, but again, people are gonna fight that tooth and nail. They're not gonna like it. They don't want it. Um, why is that? Well, I don't know. It's smarter people than me. Like I said, um, in somewhat in our current day and age, it's somewhat control. It's somewhat it's very akin, and I've said this before, and I don't want to be repetitive, but it's very, very related to race and white supremacy and white guilt. I mean, I really see these things as connected. Um, you know, People in power who want to keep other people down, and they'll use any excuse they can to justify their actions, whether it be religion or precedent. But again, the more you look at it and the more you think about it, the more what they're embracing doesn't make any sense, which I believe is why you have people in Texas and Florida and elsewhere, banning books. They don't want people to think. They don't want people to, you know, they don't want people to question authority and things that may not be true, you know. And so, if we get those books, if we get those ideas out of the realm of, experience, then we're going to stamp out those ideas. That's the philosophy, or at least that's, I think, the driving force behind it. But, again, if we go back before European, our current setup, it'd be a much different system if those, you know, societies and schemas had been given the opportunity to develop. You know, it's unfortunate, and a variety of reasons that Europeans came over here and totally, you know, killed off, stole the land. Okay, da 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 da. So anyway, so people are gonna be resistant. People are gonna hold on to things that maybe don't make sense. Things that we don't necessarily need, like the glove box. Okay. Um, that's just our nature. Uh, so as we deal with things like fairness in women's sports, you are going to have those people who, for whatever reason, are vehemently against it, and they will latch on to anything they can use to hold on to that old or inappropriate way of thinking of things. And the example very recently, someone had, you know, I don't think they watched my video. Um, if they did, they wouldn't have said what they said. Okay. Uh, very in short, as quickly as I can convey it. Um, a couple of days ago, a couple of weeks ago, there was a news thing on CBS Sunday Morning. They had a doctor, a medical doctor. They had a specialist in human physiology and development. They had a sports medicine expert, and they had research. And they proved more than once, repeatedly, um, the effect of transition, hormone replacement therapy, and other things uh, on changing physiology in human beings. And they also talked about things that, such as muscular, skeletal, things that maybe hormone replacement therapy does not change, may not change, and totally dismissed the idea that we can say that men, or let me rephrase that. Yeah, I almost fell into almost fell into the pit, the trap, the falsity. We cannot say that trans women who have completed the required amount of time on hormone replacement therapy, um, we cannot say with confidence that they absolutely have an advantage over their cis counterparts. Okay, in any population, you're going to have biodiversity, and you just can't, you just can't, you know. But that goes totally against common sense and the argument that these anti-trans woman people and interests are pushing. And so, you know, they're gonna blow the dog whistle and you know try and push their point of view, which they're welcome to try. But again, it's not science based, it's not evidence based, it's not based in reality. It's not based in, you know, it's an opinion and a you know, it's like saying the earth is flat. Okay, if that's what you believe, but you can get on an airplane and you'll see the curvature of the earth, and we've been to the moon, and you know, there's been science about it, astronomy, and da 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 da, and they'll say, "Oh no, that's fake. That's made up. That's not true." You know. And in this day and age, we look at a flat earther and we say, you know, you're fucked in the head or something. I mean, just you're idiotic, you're moronic. But in the case of the current day, like I said, here we are in April 2022. Um, CBS News is willing to give a full 10 minutes to the equivalent of a flat earther when it comes to fairness in women's sports. These people have an axe to grind. They have an agenda. They want to keep trans women down. They don't like trans women. I mean, their hatred, um, is under the guise of, you know, they just have found something to push their hatred and discrimination and bigotry. Um, we've gotten to the point that, you know, people that used to do the same stuff with racism, it's not fair to let colored people play in the all white league. It's not, I mean, it's just things that look at our past, and you just, again, you start to see this relationship between race, and now we're doing it with gender, with sexuality, human sexuality. And so, yeah, these people are going to grab at whatever they can, fighting tooth and nail. And unfortunately, um, there's enough of them still to give politicians who want to get elected, um, you know, if you want to get elected, you're not going to embrace something that is not going to help you out, you know. So as much as I may get angry at this Representative Blackburn or whoever she was, trying to, you know, uh, be hateful and what I would almost consider to be disgustingly abusive, um, the fact that there is enough of a group of people to have elected her and enough people in her district that probably might re-elect her to that office. You know, yes, the politician is, you can say bad things about the politician, but the fact that there were enough people to get them elected to office and maybe re-elected, goes to show you that there are a, I want to say a majority, but there's a substantial amount of people who believe that way. And so we still have a lot to go, uh, to change, minds, and but again, you're not gonna. I mean, there's probably always gonna be people that are gonna hate for whatever reason, and it's almost like we're as we're developing and we're growing, we're understanding, and we're accepting the things that we know, the things that we don't know that we're finding out about, and the possibility of there being things we don't know. As we get better, I hope, as a society, much like we think about, gender fluidity and whatnot today, as opposed to, I know when I was a kid or before, you know, um, you had things that were boys and things that were girls. Okay. My mom, when I had asked her about, my room, for example, when I was younger versus my sister's room. Okay. My sister's room was pink and had art, and she had a canopy bed. She had a canopy bed that, had frills on it. I mean, it was beautiful. Okay, obviously I like it, right? Okay, I wanted it for me. Whereas my room, was a mattress and a sheet. You know, I didn't have art on my wall. I didn't have, the things that maybe I really wanted to have because I was a boy. And boys don't do that. Boys don't get that. That was again the norm for the time. Um, we look back on that now and we say, how silly, you know. But obviously, you know, there's a there's still a market for it. There's still people who buy into it. And there was a video I saw a couple weeks ago that talked about, biology in response to this representative trying to figure out, what is a woman, or you can't, getting angry that the other person couldn't define what a woman is. And, they had two flashlights. Uh, One flashlight was blue, one flashlight was pink. And they said, so if you had a daughter, which of the two flashlights would you give them? You know, both do the same exact thing. They're identical, just one's blue and one's pink. You know, why is the pink one for the girl and the blue one for the boy? And if you think about that and you say, well, give it, let the person decide what they want. Well, congratulations, you've come a long way. Um, in my day, you would give the pink to the girl and the blue to the boy. You couldn't exactly say why. You would just say, well, pink is for girls and blue is for boys. In the same way that I was discouraged from playing with dolls, and if you go back to commercials of the time on TV, go back and look at the Star Wars toys, how they were marketed. Go back and look at Legos, how they were marketed. Um, Masters of the Universe. He-Man is a good example. But go back and look at Nintendo. Okay. Go back and look at the American commercials for the original Nintendo 8-bit. Go back and look at Nintendo. I believe it was called. What was the Nintendo magazine? I think it was called. Oh, I can't remember it now. In America, it was your. Now you're playing with power. The magazine that Nintendo had that basically gave you cheat codes, and it was an advertisement for Nintendo games. I mean, call it what it was. Look at the pictures inside the booklet. They're all boys, no girls. And so we grew up thinking that video games were for boys, you know. Um, where were the video games located? They were in the boys' aisle. Okay. Now, nowadays you probably would go to the electronics section of your store. Well, nowadays you probably wouldn't buy video games, you just download them. But, again, nowadays you go to Walmart, you go to the electronics section. But, I can remember back in not that long ago, well, when I was younger, maybe that was a long time ago, go to Sears or J.C. Penney's to go buy Pong, okay. It probably was with the TVs, but again in the 80s, things were, and in 70s and previous probably, things were gendered. Boys were cowboys, cowboys and Indians, right? Another bad stereotype. Um, so again, you have people who are just vehemently against that. Vehemently. Why? You know, why can't you let a child play with whatever they want to play with? You know, and so, like I said, if in this day and age you look at that and you say, how silly is that? Let the girl play with a Nerf gun, or let the girl play soccer with their friends. Congratulations, it's worked. You know, but we still have a long way to go as far as equity and equality. Um, Here we are again in 2022, and you still have men and women getting paid differently for the same job, the same company, you know? And you have people who, again, are upset. You go back to the 1970s, which is what, 52 years ago? You had women that were against the Equality Act because they did not want women to be equal to men. They didn't want them to get paid the same. They didn't want them to have the same opportunities. They did not want, there was a group of people against the Equality Act um, who defined what a woman was by what she did. And if women were allowed to enter the marketplace and do the same jobs as men, then they weren't going to be women anymore, you know? So, again, the more you look back at the past and look at the present and see all this change and you have resistance to it, you know, you're going to have people that are just against it. And it may not be rational, it may not be logical. They may have a very emotional reason why they don't want the change. Um, you know, I think it helps to understand a little more. You know, the enemy is not the person. The enemy is the philosophy and what's being driven behind it, which to me at least seems to be control. Control, whether it be racial, whether it be gender or sexuality or whatnot. It's about control and dominance. Um, no, yeah, they don't want trans women. It's not trans women in sports. It's that they don't want trans women. Okay, because gender fluidity is not normal to them. They can't comprehend it. They can't. They can't. It goes so far against everything that they were brought up with and raised in. Okay, you know, girls shouldn't play with girls shouldn't play with, I can't think of anything now because it's such a strange concept to me, but you know, the Betty Crocker Easy Bake Oven. Okay, go back to my youth in the 70s. I wanted one. I wanted to make cakes. I wanted to be a wife. I wanted to be a homemaker. I wanted to be the woman. I wanted to be a woman. I wanted to be a girl. To be honest with you. Well, I was a girl. I was a boy at the time. But anyway, you know, again, go back to that and how it was marketed. It was marketed for girls. That's what girls did, you know. So again, things that today we would treat as silly. Um, you know, some 20 years from now, hopefully sooner, we're going to look back at this and just go, remember how silly and stupid that was? And yeah, you're probably going to still have people, you have people upset that they took the go-go boots off the green M&M, okay? You have people that got upset, you know. I mean, again, we're as a society, we're still developing and whatnot. But I hope that sooner than later, um, we can just let people be, and it doesn't come down to control. You know, let people be. You want to play a sport, play a sport. You want to go run outside, go run outside. You want to play a video game, play a video game. You know, let that. It's almost like a laissez-faire. Get your hands off of it and you know, let people do what they want to do. As long as they're not hurting someone else. And I guess that opens up a window with abortion and blah 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 blah. But you know, it's about control and other things probably too. So, you know, I'm gonna close this off here. I gotta pee. I'm friendly with you. I'll tell you, I gotta pee. My son here, I'm gonna have to get up. Oh, there he goes. Okay, so that's a good sign. Um, again, I hope that sooner than later, we'll look back on this 2022 and just, laugh at it or cry at it maybe. Um, you know, in the Supreme Court thing, and then I'll shut up. The idea about she said, well, it's science, it's biology, and I read an article by a biologist, about how no, biology can't tell you what a woman is either. In humans, there are six uh, bio things in our bodies that could tell you what a woman might be, but not every woman has all six. And as far as species go, not all female or you know in a binary system have those six characteristics. So no, you can't say biology, and you can't say, well, a woman has a vagina because you have intersexed individuals. Okay, you have women who were not born with a vagina. You can't say breasts, okay, because uh, fetuses don't have breasts, right? You know, they're just some things, again, the more you pick it apart and you look at it, you're going to find exceptions. You're going to find that it's not as simple as you think it is, you know. And then you begin to think about kind of what I talked about with the flashlights, okay? This idea of gender not being a biological construct, being a social construct. You know, again, the more you think about it, the more maybe question your own position and what you believe. And I guess the happy ending to that is that you become a better person. You grow as an individual. And then I'll circle back to that idea of you have people who don't want to grow, who don't want to change, who don't want to, you know, who don't want that, and they're going to actively fight for that. And so the struggle will go on. The struggle will continue, I imagine. But anyway, on that note, I will end that there and wish you the best of luck in becoming your authentic self, whoever you are, whatever you define it. If that's what you want to do, live and let live, blah, 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 blah. Till next time, good luck, my friend. Bye bye.